afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you all for attending our 4th annual joint luncheon between the Realtors Association and the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. My deepest thanks to our Real Estate Council and its new chair, Reinaldo Borges, for putting this amazing event together. They labored very hard over the last 6 months to bring you a program for this luncheon that looks towards the future of Miami real estate market. Our first joint real estate luncheon 4 years ago was chaired by the fabulous RUBIN, and it talked about the importance of international buyers in the Miami real estate market and to its recovery. This panel will examine where the future buyers for Miami real estate could come from, especially as now Miami has gained status as a global city, has been named in 6th place among the top 10 favorite cities of the ultra-rich by Forbes and Knight Frank studies, will be a major palm export, making us more important for Asian trade, and have direct flights from Qatar to Miami. Will we hence see more Asians and Middle Easterns residential buyers in our market? How will this affect our design of the condos, towers, and their locations? What skills do realtors and developers need to reach this market? Chinese buyers will spend $8.2 billion on American houses this year, according to the National Association of Realtors. In the US, the number is the #1 destination for Chinese property investors in 2013. Can Miami capture a larger share of this vast market than it traditionally has? We hope to answer this today with our panel. Thank you to our panelists, where are they, over there, for taking the time to speak to us today. They're all at the top of their field, and we greatly look forward to them sharing their opinions and expertise. I want to thank the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce and its amazing staff, and all our sponsors to help us put up this stellar event again. And now I will introduce, from ISG World, the brokers for Crimson, Craig Sudnicki.
Literally happier days are here again, huh? I'm just like all of you. I also am a realtor. And it's nice feeling what we're feeling in 2013 and looking forward to an amazing 2014. On behalf of Fernando, Levy, Hara, and Stephan Gietl, owners of McKafka Development and the developers of the Crimson, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you here this morning. We have a short presentation at the end of the sponsors' presentation to discuss a little bit about Edgewater and more particularly the Crimson, and a golden opportunity that's probably waiting for everybody in this room next year. Appreciate your patience and more particularly joining us this morning. Thank you very much.
Present our first presenting sponsor, Peter WEYTS from BELLAGIO Homes, to speak about his products and services. Thank you.
All the nice things come from Italy, and we have beautiful handmade furniture from Lake Como, Italy, designed by Alessandro Vinci. All the furniture is handmade, made with the most exquisite material. We have showrooms in Miami Beach and in Boynton Beach. Miami Beach on Michigan Avenue off Lincoln Road, and another showroom in Boynton Beach off the Intercoastal in Marina Village. We look forward to welcoming you at any of our showrooms. We also have the two lovely ladies in the room, Mia Gamelli, who's the Miami Beach office, and we have Alana Hatfield from Boynton with the Boynton Beach showroom. You can also visit us on the web, BELLAGIOhome.com, BELLAGIO-home.com. This is on the web. Visit one of our showrooms. You're always very welcome. Thank you very much.
And now, the wonderful EDWIN Menendez of Multimedia Innovations. Everything you see.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Edwin Melendez with Multimedia Innovations. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of the electronics and some of the solutions that we had outside. The battery-operated motorized window treatments. You don't have to make any holes. So much of what we do in this industry and selling Miami Beach and Miami to the world is about the experience and the lifestyle that happens after the sale. We are a huge part of that, and along with teaming up with Borges and Alfred Karam and Mendez International, we can deliver that result, a beautiful result. Multimedia Innovations, whenever I need to ask anything or find anything out, I ask Siri. So, what about Siri? Siri, what can you tell me about Multimedia Innovations?
Here's what I found on the web, but because Edwin is my friend, I will personally tell you more about Multimedia Innovations and what they do. Technology has changed the way people live. The iPad and iPhone have revolutionized the way Multimedia Innovations do business today. They are the most amazing gadgets ever invented, if I may say so myself. Ha ha ha. Multimedia Innovations can show you how to control your home using these gadgets. They have applications that allow you to control things in your house like motorized window treatments, HVAC, whole house lighting, and much, much more. Thank you for listening. Please feel free to visit the Multimedia Innovations display areas outside. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. All this right from your iPhone and your iPad. Thank you very much.
Now that you've seen the product you can put in your house or condo, you need to go and buy one. So Melissa Rubin of Platinum Properties is the broker to go to, and she's the presenting sponsor. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Rubin, and I'm one of the brokers for Platinum Properties International. It's very apropos that we are presenting sponsors today, because our world has gotten smaller, and for us, we have a new focus on Dubai and the UAE, which is just under the radar right now. And for us, that new clientele is going to expand our world. So if any of you are interested in learning more about how to do business in these unusual countries, I will be here to help. My name is Melissa Rubin. My company is Platinum Properties.
Welcome, everybody. This is really something special here today. This is our 4th annual real estate luncheon. That's a big deal. 4 years. We've come a long way. And look at this great crowd. Over the last few years, we've brought a lot of great value to everyone in attendance, and I'm sure we're going to do that again today. And I'm sure everyone's going to come a little bit more well-versed in real estate, especially here in Miami Beach. Before we get things started, I don't know how many of you attended last year at our inaugural City National Bank Better Beach Awards. But for those of you who did not, you really missed out. Not only did we sell out in weeks, with only weeks to go, we managed to absolutely take an opportunity to show the appreciation to you, our real estate community here in Miami Beach. And we're really excited to make it bigger and better this year. But we need your help. I want to direct your attention to the screens. We have all these different awards that we're going to be having this year. And we're really looking to make this thing bigger and better than ever. And I know you have colleagues and friends and people you work with out there in the community. And it's an opportunity to really nominate these folks. Inside your program and scattered throughout the room, you're going to find these forms. And it's an opportunity to really give someone the thanks that they deserve. So I encourage you to absolutely find those forms, fill them out, and make those nominations to make this the greatest event ever. Now I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the chamber staff. I really want to say what a great job, and I really want everyone to give a round of applause to our chamber staff. You know, it's events like this that make our organization what it is today, and it's just an impressive thing to see, and it makes me feel really, really wonderful. And a couple of special thanks to Christian and Monica for doing such a great job here today. Thanks, guys. Now I want to invite my very close personal friends, Stephan and Fernando, to come on up here. I got to tell you about these guys. We have Fernando, Levy, Hara, and Stephan Gietl. These are the principals of McKafka Development Group. And they are our title sponsor today. These guys are something else. They know more about real estate, and they know more about accounting and tax than any of my clients out there. We've spent so much time together, and it's really been a pleasure. These two guys met talking at Harvard, and they really put together something very special. And I thank everyone for being here today, and I'm going to turn over to them to let them really tell you more about it. Thanks, guys.
I may say time is running. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't it feel so much different today than 4 years ago? From bust to boom, isn't that amazing where we are today? Right? It was also 4 years ago when I met Fernando, my dear business partner in Harvard. when we decided to form a joint venture, originally to acquire distressed assets, and we named our company the McKafka Development Group. And before I came to sunny Florida, I traveled to Nevada, I traveled to New York, I traveled to California to find the best deals in those days. And when I arrived in California, I realized they have already one Austrian there and mixed it up, so there's no place for another one. So I moved on to Nevada. I'm from the mountains, it was only desert, so I turned around, took the next plane and continued to Florida. And we had a very good discussion in the Levy Hotel. I remember I decided to do this joint venture. So we announced our joint venture, and people were reacting in quite a funny way. They say, how come that an Argentine and an Austrian can do a joint venture when the only thing they have in common is the first letter in their country's name? Because as you may know, for Argentines, a watch is more jewelry, and for an Austrian, we look every 3 minutes on the watch if we're not running late, if not somebody else is late. So it was quite a challenge. But I'm very glad to announce today that we coped with all these difficulties, and we acquired in those last 4 years more than 500 distressed units, which we resold in different properties, and Fernando can tell the board. And we also started very early, already in 2011, to acquire distressed land. We were one of the first movers in Edgewater, buying distressed land there, where we are now today happily and proud to announce the Crimson. And behind all this was not just the gut feel, there was really hard academic research and work. And we are both now have the honor to teach at Harvard University about real estate cycles. And I may hand over to you now to Fernando, who can explain you in much more depth and detail how our business model worked out so well in taking into consideration the academic background of real estate cycles. Thank you very much and enjoy this great event.
The first thing is that everybody said that the last cycle and the last bust will be forever, there will not be a recovery in the market in Florida. We have this discussion with our professors in Harvard. They say you will not see cranes in South Florida until 2020. And we predicted that it will be 2012. And one of the reasons is there's always, after a bust, there's a recovery. Real estate cycles and cycles in the economy have been forever. The first one was, is in the Bible, the story of the 7 years of fat cows and the 7 years of very weak cows. This is the first real estate cycle that is in the records in any book. It happened 2, 3, 4 years, 4,000 years ago. So the first thing that we need to know with our clients, cycles happen. After the bust, it comes a recovery. We have always these type of things. Perhaps the last one was a bit more aggressive. And the second thing that we need what is important that we know about real estate cycles? For the developers is we need to decide when we start building, and we should be aware when not to start building. That this is something that it didn't happen in 2005 with so many developers. And with brokers, it's very important that you need to explain them and to advise them about when is the good moment to start an investment and when is not a good moment and you need to pull out of the market. So when we study about real estate, you know about expansion and about recession and seller's market and buyer's market. This is part of the story, and this is what we are seeing now in South Florida. A lot of new construction, a lot of new cranes, but every day they ask us, is this the beginning of the next boom, or this is the beginning of the next bubble? And this is what you need to know how to advise your clients. But the big difference in South Florida, apart of demand and supply, and all the nice number that Lynda Fernandez every month put in the website of the Board of Realtors, that I'm sure that all of you are all the time looking to them about how many available units, closed units, pending units we have. It's very important to know the big differentiator in this market, opposite to every other market, or almost every other market in the country, is what we will call in our research, follow the money. the same that Deep Throat and Watergate case, they said, you need to follow the money. Where the money is going now? It's coming from Argentina, thanks to my nice president, Cristina Kirchner. It's coming from Venezuela, thanks to Maduro. It's coming from France, thanks to Hollande and the 75% tax for wealthy people. So, and they perceive South Florida market like the heaven, the piggy box, the paradise. As far as we can communicate this to our investors and that these other countries keep doing things not as good as they should, they will keep being a big flow of money. And this is what we call the financial cycle of real estate. So this is just a couple of tips when you sit down with your investors. Tell them, this is the beginning of a cycle that hopefully it will last, and it will last not less than 4 to 6 years. And it has fundamentals, that is demographic, growing population, but also a big flow of money. So thank you very much for coming and enjoy your meeting.
On behalf of my partner, Philip Spiel, and everyone from ISG who's here today, once again, I thank you for your time. I have been asked to make this sort of brief, so I'm going to give you a little preview to this opportunity that we've got involved in with Stephan and Fernando in a neighborhood called Edgewater. Now, every one of us in this room are realtors, and we're concerned about two things all the time. We're concerned about making commissions, but obviously, and we're working really hard right now to get it. The 11th real estate commandment says, thou shalt not squander a good cycle. The Lord knows we're in one. The Lord knows we're in one. I've got my Nikes on every day, and I'm going just as fast as my 50-something-year-old legs will let me go. The second concern is our reputations. Because the cleaner we keep our reputations, and the more professional we try to approach every single day in our lives, the greater the following. Every one of you, I'm sure like us, have buyers from all over the world that have a particular interest in Miami today more than ever. We're seeing real estate sell on Miami Beach and Sunny Isles at record prices that none of us ever could have dreamed of, certainly 2 or 3 years ago. And even today, it startles my mind when I consider that the average price of a brand new condo on Miami Beach today is approaching $10 million. Yeah, they're spectacular units and they're big and their views are great, but it's still $10 million. Every one of you in this room knew that just a few years ago it was hard to sell anything for more than $1 million. We all know why. The mortgages, pretty much a lethargic, negative attitude amongst everybody in the whole world for reasons we all know. But my God, how things have changed. 4 years ago, almost every one of you were involved as it was ISG and taking advantage of all those distressed sales in Brickell Avenue in downtown Miami. 2006, we were selling condos for what? $600 and $700 a foot? By 2010, we were selling them for half of that. In Miami Beach in 2005 and 2006, we were selling new condos for $1,000 a foot, and by 2010, we were selling them for half of that. And that was the opportunity. There were gold mines on Brickell in downtown in Miami Beach, including the Sunny Isles. Gold mines. But all of you who are active in the business, like Philip and Craig, we all know that inventory is now gone. It's amazing that we're looking at a 15-year low in MLS supply. It's amazing that the average days on the market today is less than 45 days. It's also amazing, isn't it? You properly list a home, and how many in this room have had more than 2 or 3 offers on that same listing within a 48-hour period of time? And with all due respect to all of our selling skills, guys, it has a lot to do with the lack of supply. So how the heck did we go from an abundance to a shortage? Well, it happened. And today, like you, we're asking ourselves, where is the next golden opportunity? Where can we suggest to our clients, because we've developed great reputations, to move their money and their interest in an area that is about to go through transformation? And like all of you, when I travel outside of Miami, whether it's personal or it's business, and I answer one question, hey Craig, where are you from? And I tell them Miami. It doesn't really matter what corner of the world I'm in. Your eyes light up, right? Haven't you all had the same experience I had? There's just something about this magical city. And when you're presenting a ground floor opportunity in South Florida and you can match it with the word Miami, you've got a captive audience. I know, we've had some experience with that. Today, because of McKafka, ISG's taking a really, really hard look at Edgewater. It makes perfect sense. On the bay, whenever you stand on Biscayne Bay in the Edgewater area, guys, I promise you, it's like staring out an airplane window. You're your mind just goes forever. It goes where it wants to go. There's no replacing this magical, beautiful, natural environment that we call Biscayne Bay. Right between the Gietl Causeway and the Venetian Causeway, on the water, is quite frankly a little neighborhood that desperately needs transformation. You drive through it and it's not particularly impressive. But if you have a little bit of vision, just a little bit of vision, like those developers that entered downtown Miami, a lot of your investors who bought it 3 or 4 years ago at $300 a foot, never realizing that those investments would double in value in 3 years. Or folks that bought Sunny Isles at $1,000 a foot a couple of years ago never imagined that those same units in 2 years would be trading for $1,500. And they are. So, how can an area on the bay in Miami, between the Gietl Causeway and the Venetian, 5 minutes to the south is the Adrian Art Center, and 5 minutes to the north is the Design District. Well, McKafka is not the first company to consider to discover this opportunity. It was really Related. Related Group a year ago decided to develop a property called Icon Bay. And they followed Paramount on the Bay, yes. And they did an outstanding job. Paramount on the Bay was remarketed by a competitor of mine, fortunately. They remarketed about 3 years ago at around $400 a foot. People thought it was kind of high, and guess what? They sold it out. Today they're reselling for $7. Related followed that and developed Icon Bay. You see that little square, that big yellow rectangle is what we call Edgewater. The red rectangle with the yellow rectangle, it's a little 4-block area in Edgewater. And right now, this thing works. Right now, is experiencing approximately $1.5 billion in real estate development by developers that have got a really strong story. This is what Edgewater looks like this morning. In 2013. And you consider, from the south to the north, Bay House being marketed by Severa. They're claiming 70% pre-sales, and the developer is talking about groundbreaking in the first quarter of next year. We believe that. Crimson, our project. 25 of the 90 were already sold, and we expect to be breaking ground in the first quarter of next year. Biscayne Beach House to the north. They're claiming 50% reserve. Maybe it's a slight exaggeration, but either way, expect them to break ground next summer. Icon Bay, sandwiched in between Crimson and Biscayne Beach Club, they're topping off in 6 months. And they're talking about closings in the first quarter of 2015. And then to the north of that is Paradiso by Related. What's it look like? That's what it looks like in 2016. You want a before and an after? You believe in the credibility of these developers and the effort that they put in thus far in marketing these projects? This is $1.5 billion worth of real estate, and for everybody in this room, approximately $75 million in commissions will be paid to all of us who can bring our buyers to the next golden nugget ground floor opportunity in Miami. We have more to discuss about this a little bit later. I mean, some of these images you've already seen when Stephan and Fernando were making their presentation, but these are more before and after photos of Edgewater. That's what it looks. That's the entrance of I'm going to close with this. That's the entrance of Paradiso on the left. That's what it looks like this morning. To the right is what it will look like in 2016 when Related finishes development. We have lots of before and after pictures. We're painting a picture that Philip and I bought into. Edgewater is not just the next Chelsea. It belongs to Miami. And 3 years from now, we're going to be calling it Edgewater because it belongs to us, and we're going to make it as special as it was meant to be. Thank you very much.
I'd like to introduce now our moderator for today, Rick Folbo. He will come on the stage in a minute. He is anchors the local CBS 4 evening news car. Rick started his career as a correspondent for the Fox News Channel and was a former co-anchor for Fox 5 News and 6. We cannot thank you enough for being here, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rick Folbo.
Thank you for such a warm introduction and a warm welcome to South Florida. I'm the new guy in town. I just started at CBS a couple of months ago. And listening to some of the speakers, I'm just struck with this question. Where were you all 3 months ago when I was packing up my family in New York and finding a place to live here in South Florida? Could have used your help. But it really is a pleasure to be here and excited to hear about the bright future of the Miami Beach and South Florida real estate industry. I'm very impressed to be in this room full of all of you, and I know I've already learned quite a bit. I'm sure a lot of you already know some of these statistics, but it's very exciting to be here at this time at this moment. And thank you to the Miami Beach real estate community for giving me the opportunity to moderate this event. This is very exciting for me, and having done these events before up in New York, I know how important it is to keep them moving. So without further ado, let me introduce Lynda Fernandez. Lynda is the Senior Vice President of Public Relations and International at the Miami Association of Realtors. She handles international business development, global media relations, and research for the association. She's been an active leader in this real estate community. I'm sure a lot of you know Lynda very well, and she'll be providing us, before we get to the panel and our question and answers, Lynda will be providing us with a short market overview.
I'd like to start off by saying that this presentation will be available online on the Chamber's website and on our website. So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip some of the slides, even though they have very valuable information, but you can access it later. So the Miami real estate market, as you've heard from the other speakers, has experienced remarkable strengthening over the last 3 years in particular. 2 consecutive record sales years in 2011 and 2012, and 2013 may be another record year despite the tight supply. In Miami Beach, sales are also increasing year over year, year to date, 10.5%, and compared to 4 years ago, 100%. Single-family home prices in September, the median sales price for single-family homes in Miami-Dade County increased 18.4%, condos 21.3%, and the charts on the bottom give you a historical perspective. We've had 27 months of double-digit appreciation for condominiums and 22 months for single-family homes. Yet despite the strengthening, prices are still what they were in 2004. Miami Beach prices, as one might expect, higher than county-wide. The median sales price for single-family homes is $1,100,000, and for condos it's $285,000. And you can see that they've increased 22% year-to-date, year-over-year for single-family homes, and 12% for condos. Inventory, back in August 2008, which was probably the bottom of the market for sales, we had 46,000 listings on the market. Now we have 75% fewer listings available. This reflects 4.9 months of supply for single-family homes and 6.3 months for condos. A balanced market is 6 to 9 months, so you can see single-family homes definitely a seller's market, and condominiums at the very low end of a balanced market. We are seeing a lot of new listings coming on the market, yet despite the significant increase in new listings on a monthly basis, we still have insufficient supply to satisfy demand. Properties, as you heard, selling very, very fast and close to asking price. Cash sales, still a significant portion of our market. 61% of total sales were cash in September, compared to 33% nationally. And that is an indication of the high presence of international buyers in our market. Distressed properties continue to decline. In September, they were only 38% of the market, down from 45% a year ago and probably 68% 2 to 3 years ago. Nationally, distressed properties are 14%. International buyers, we all know international buyers were instrumental in our market turnaround, and they helped our market recover stronger and faster than anyone expected, and probably faster than any other market in the country. NAR releases its international study every year in May or June. The value of U.S. residential properties by international buyers in the U.S. is $68.2 billion and $24.1 billion for commercial. There was a slight decrease in international buying activity due to economic slowdowns in foreign economies and exceptionally tight mortgage credit standards. The factors influencing the purchase by international buyers in the U.S. The U.S. is viewed as a desirable location, and number 2 is the U.S. real estate is viewed as a profitable investment. These are the top countries investing in the U.S. according to the latest study: Canada, China, Mexico, India, UK, Germany. UK and Germany are tied, and Argentina. Again, this is just a historical perspective. I'll skip this slide. China, as you heard, a great force buying in the U.S. They buy much higher than other top countries, and we are seeing a lot of interest in Miami. There was an article by Forbes 2 days ago that showed that Chinese buyers now prefer Miami, second only to Los Angeles in the U.S. Top states, Florida, still by far the top U.S. state for international buyers. This one I'm going to skip. It's just a comparison between who's buying in Florida versus California. Why is Miami so global? If you look at Florida, 19.2% of all Florida residents are foreign born, and 27% of those speak a language other than English as a primary language. When you look at Miami, that's 51.2 billion are foreign born, and 72.3 speak a language other than English at home. Florida is home to 300 global business headquarters. 162 billion goods entered or exited the United States through Florida in 2012. Foreign-owned companies employ 223,000 Floridians, and Miami is also a leading international banking center. This slide we're all aware of. Why is there such an advantage to doing international business in Florida? And you can read them on your own, but I think what the big takeaway here is that there is no other market like Miami in the US. Foreign buyers, you can see the vast majority of them feel that real estate in Florida is less expensive than in their home countries. Most pay cash, 84%. The top regions of origin in Florida, Latin America, the Caribbean, Canada, and Europe. This is a duplicate slide. So 1 in 4 international transactions in the US take place in Florida, and nearly 1 in 3 in Florida take place in Miami. Again, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, by far the top area in the US for international buying activity, and Florida and Miami have been the top areas since NAR began doing these studies years ago. This I'm going to go really quickly. These are just top areas that choose Miami over any other market in Florida. Venezuela, Brazil, South America, Western Europe. And these I'll let you look up online. According to the Florida study, these are the top regions and the top countries investing in Miami. That's Fort Lauderdale information. And according to our study in 2012, the top countries investing in Miami were Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Colombia, Mexico, and France. This slide, it's very hard to read, but it's just to show you additional countries that are also actively buying here. Russia, Chile, Germany, China, United Kingdom, and India. And now we just completed our 2013 international study, so we've not released this or made this available. You're the first to see the results. The top countries, according to the 2013 study, are Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Canada, France, Mexico, and Italy. What I find most interesting is that there's been an increase in activity from Italy, from Mexico, from France, and from Colombia. And again, the other countries that are also investing here. Who's looking at Miami properties? Realtor.com International ranks the top markets in the US where foreign consumers are searching property. And Miami ranks number 2 on most months, second only to Los Angeles. They also rank on Realtor.com International the top 20 countries searching US properties, and then the top 5 markets that they're searching. And you can see that Miami is a top market for at least 13 of those countries. On our website, searching Miami property, the top countries are Venezuela, Canada, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Lithuania, France, Italy, Spain, and Philippines. That was for September. And the top U.S. states searching Miami property are California, Texas, New York, Georgia, Illinois, North Carolina, Virginia, New Jersey, Ohio, and Michigan. This article, as Madeline mentioned, the new global city. This is 2 years old, but this becomes a reality more and more each day. Miami is a global city on the same level as London, Paris, Hong Kong, New York, and we have great weather, a great lifestyle, great cultural affinity, and cheaper real estate. Also, high net worth individuals increasingly attracted to global cities, including Miami. Madeline also mentioned the Qatar Airlines launching their new flight. Direct flights are a great indication of who's going to be buying here. Buyers and investors are more likely to invest here if there's a direct flight from their home country or their home city. As far as global media coverage, the association in our market gets a lot of extensive media coverage and leading outlets around the world. When Al Jazeera launched their channel in August and opened their Miami bureau, Miami real estate was one of their top stories. Again, just examples of the coverage we get, including top newspapers in Brazil, top publications in France, CNN Money and other national networks, and as of the last few months, a lot of coverage in China for Miami. The Miami Association of Realtors has over 100 global partners, and we connect our members to do referral business, and we keep expanding this network, and this brings more attention and exposure to Miami and more business from foreign buyers. As I mentioned, this will be available online at miamire.com/market, also available on the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce website. You can also access there other international resources, including the studies I referenced, and the Miami Market Highlight booklet in languages. Teresa Kinney, our CEO, and I are the international team for our association, and I handle media research statistics, and this is our information so you can contact us. Thank you very much.
Let's introduce the rest of the panelists. And when I introduce you, gentlemen, please come up and take your seats at the table here. Dr. Robert Cruz is the chief economist for Miami-Dade County, and in this role, he is responsible for analyzing current economic conditions, trends, and policies while preparing economic impact studies and forecasts for our entire community here. He is very well respected and a recognized expert in quantitative economic analysis. He specializes in regional economic development, macroeconomic forecasting, and modeling and simulation analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Robert Cruz. Reinaldo Borges is the principal for his firm Borges Associates, and his 28-year portfolio are responsible for, get this, over $3.5 billion in projects. He headed the Canyon Ranch and Royal Palm Resort design teams in Miami Beach, while being a project director at Arquitectonica. I hope I said that correctly, we went over it over there. During this period, he also directed the design team for the American Airlines Arena, the Bentley Beach and Bay projects, and worked on projects throughout the Americas. His practice spans between Miami, Dubai, Brazil, and Mexico, and Spain, and he has an international perspective in his design approach. Reinaldo Borges, and not certain. Please welcome Reinaldo Borges. Yes. And last but certainly not least, we have Peter Zalewski. Peter is a well-known and active member of our real estate community and has focused his vast experience and knowledge of real estate into his latest project, Condo Vultures. Aside from being the principal of a real estate consultancy, he is also a contributor to the Miami Herald and the Miami Real Deal. Please welcome Peter Zalewski. Okay, so enjoy your lunch. We're going to do some questions and answers right now, and there will be some time afterwards for all of you to pose questions to our panelists as well. So think about them, hold on to them, and we'll come to you after the Q&A. So while you're enjoying your lunch, let's turn our attention to our first panelist. We've already heard from Lynda Fernandez. But let me ask you this first question. Can you discuss for us, Lynda, the history and the appeal of international buyers in the South Florida real estate market?
I think for international buyers, like I said, Miami has always been a top market for international buyers, but over the last few years, I think I'm a Miami native, even though I'm not, but I've lived here most of my life, and I've seen a great transformation in Miami since I was a child, and especially in the last 5 to 8 years. So I think Miami is a true global city, and it will continue to be, and it's probably one of the few cities that has the amenities, the lifestyle, cultural affinity that Miami has.
And Lynda, saying with you, international buyers, as a lot of people in this room will know, a primary driver in the recovery of the real estate market here in South Florida. Are international buyers, do you think, here to stay, or could their presence diminish at all as more domestic buyers move into the area?
Absolutely, they're here to stay, and I think the world is global now, and Miami is the ideal place because of strategic location, because of some of the factors I mentioned, with international business, banking center, great way to recruit businesses here. So international buyers, I think, are here to stay and definitely will grow. Their presence will grow.
Trend-wise, Lynda, are you seeing any different international buyer purchasing in South Florida than what we've seen, what we've come to know historically?
We used to see mostly Latin America, Western Europe, Canada. Canada investing in South Florida. And I think over the last 5 to 8 years, that has increased to include the majority of the world. And we see countries, like I mentioned on the slide, like China, United Kingdom, Germany, that weren't traditionally strong for our market and now are.
You and I were talking about this outside before we came in today. You have a room full of real estate professionals. What kind of advice would you have for them if they wanted to tap into clientele from some of the more emerging markets, like Asia? You talked about China, we've heard about that, or even the Middle East.
There's different things you can do, and obviously it depends on the market. But there's education. We offer the designation from the National Association of Realtors with Certified International Property Specialist, or the Transnational Referral Certification. We also recommend that you attend events. There's ways without attending the global events locally to connect with those foreign buyers. We often bring in foreign delegates for our international congress and other events and trade missions. So it would be ideal for you to be aware of the events and the opportunities where you might connect with these foreign professionals and make sure to attend, because as you all know, it takes sometimes years after you establish a relationship, particularly for foreign buyers, to generate sales. So establishing those relationships is probably one of the most important things.
One more time, thank you to Lynda Fernandez for your insight and advice. And a reminder, if you have any questions, please save them. We will have members of the chamber staff walking around after we do some Q&A up here, and we'll be happy to take some questions from you in the audience. Let's say hello again to Dr. Robert Cruz. Thank you again for being here, sir. Please slide the microphone to Dr. Cruz. And let me ask you about the ports. The port here is preparing, as you know, for larger cargo ships with the widening of the Panama Canal, and this, of course, is having an impact on the industrial space, driving other economic dynamics here in South Florida. What kind of impact do you think this will have on the residential real estate industry? And will the impact be solely in workforce housing, people that come here to work at the port, or could it impact other sectors of residential real estate?
Yeah, first of all, I think that you're right that just even 2 years before, I'd say at least for 2 years now, when it was pretty clear that Miami-Dade County was going to dredge the port, had the funding to dredge the port and to support those Panama ships, we immediately saw an impact on the commercial, industrial real estate market. Over the last 2 years, you've seen increases in occupancy rates, increases in lease rates, more building going on, more new construction going on in that area. That was just in anticipation of that. I think when the canal opens and we're able to see those ships coming in, and we're also preparing the infrastructure to handle those ships, that there's going to be a widespread impact, not just on the commercial side, not just in terms of employment, but also in terms of the residential real estate market. Now, a couple of things. Well, we obviously, if we're a growing economy, has greater employment, has more people moving in, and that creates a demand for residential. And a lot of that demand is going to be at the affordable ranges and workforce housing. Definitely, we're going to need additional workforce housing. But international trade complements international tourism and international investment. And so I think that you will also see an impact from that affecting the higher end of the residential market. We also have potentially, I hope that we're going to see some immigration reform, especially that allows more immigration from wealthy individuals and highly skilled and highly creative individuals coming in. That also should produce a positive impact on the higher end of the real estate market.
Interesting, and you touched on this, but I wonder if maybe you could expand on it a little bit more, Dr. Cruz, the impact that international trade could potentially have, both on workforce housing and also some of the higher end properties here in residential real estate.
Yeah, I think that once our economy is reacts very well to international trade trends. And as the global economy expands, we're seeing, of course, we all tend to see our international trade expanding as well. That brings additional people into Miami-Dade County doing business, and people that are doing business in Dade County also tend to look at real estate as well. I mean, they enjoy not only doing business here, but they see the amenities, the great amenities that we have here, and I think that that attracts them to either immigrate here or to purchase second homes here, and that produces that additional effect on those, not just the workforce housing, but the other types of housing.
So amenities, of course, but also infrastructure. So let's talk about that for a moment. The need and the importance of a community's investment in infrastructure improvements in order specifically to bolster international commerce here in South Florida.
Right, I think Miami-Dade has always been very proactive in terms of public infrastructure that supports international trade. Obviously, the port has received a lot of attention. It's not just the dredge, it's also the preparing of the seawalls to handle the larger ships. It's also the rail connection from the port to basically be able to put containers right onto rail and potentially ship those anywhere else in the country by rail. So those kinds of investments have always, has historically been done at the county. We've invested billions of dollars at the airport. So that is also part of the necessary infrastructure to handle international trade. But we also have a lot of other infrastructure needs. It's not just about our economy, although international trade is important, that's not the only thing in the economy. We have a lot of other positives in Miami-Dade County's economy beyond international trade. But so we need to address those infrastructure needs. For example, the basic utilities of things like water and sewer. That's very important. We are recognize that as an important need that has to be addressed, and we're already beginning to address some of those needs. But we have investments going on in transportation, in local transportation. We also, as economists, think of education and medical facilities as part of the infrastructure that is necessary. We see that going on as well. The other thing I think that we should remember is that there's a lot of private sector investment going on that helps international trade. And for example, at the northwest corner of the airport, we have a logistics center that's already coming out of the ground. That's going to add 1.6 million additional square feet of warehousing. Those types of investments are happening throughout the county. They're done by the private sector, and you don't really see much, you can hear much about it in the news sometimes, but it's very important. For example, our free trade zone now also basically can, because of recent changes, you can have free trade zone benefits practically anywhere in Miami-Dade County. And so private developers are taking advantage of that as well as we get ready for this additional international trade that we expect.
Final question, Dr. Cruz, on sort of forecasting. We all need to be able to look a little bit into the future to make plans. And I wonder if there are already red flags that you see. The international community and certain economies around the world are in flux and a little bit unpredictable at times. Are there any hedges that real estate professionals might want to make moving forward to make sure that they're not so solely invested in this country or that country, and might be open or willing to look at some of these other markets that perhaps could be potential business partners in the future?
Diversifying one's market is essentially, typically a good thing. But it's really a question of cost versus potential gain. And so you have to be, strategic in what areas you want to look at. And yes, we do, I think, as mentioned earlier, we have opportunities now, more opportunities with the Middle East, with this direct connection between Miami International Airport and Doha. That, I think, represents an opportunity for Miami-Dade County, for not just real estate, but for other types of business as well. But how do we do that? What are the kinds of things that we can begin to do? Well, we need to have trade missions, and trade missions are very important. Trade admissions take a long time. You have to do several of them before you gain the confidence and the personal context that you actually see some movement. But you do have to make investments in that. You have to also maybe even go to the extent of having a presence in those new markets. So maybe it would, but generally when you do something like that, you should do that collaboratively. So it's not just the realtors having an office, let's say in Doha, but it's also other chambers having offices there, other industries partnering together to try to establish a presence there. And the same thing I think is true with China. China is a growing economy, but you know that Afghanistan is a big foreign investor, a big source of direct foreign investment, mainly on the U.S. West Coast, but also in Latin America. That there's an opportunity, of course, because most of those business people that are going to be going to Latin America are going to be passing through Miami-Dade County, so and Miami's airport. So I think you need to think about how to develop a strategy that is cost-effective, but also takes advantage of these opportunities.
Dr. Robert Cruz, thank you very much. It's here to give me And I turn now to Mr. Reinaldo Borges, and I asked you ahead of time, no relation to our wonderful traffic reporter, Vanessa Borges, on CBS 4. You're the artist on the panel here, sir. And I have a great deal of respect for what you do and all architects. But talk to us about architecture in general, the way that design, as someone who is behind some of the most iconic buildings here in our area, how does architecture contribute to what South Florida has to offer to the foreign buyer specifically? What makes Miami, the look of Miami, attractive to a foreign buyer?
Thank you, Rick. I think it's a good time to be an architect in South Florida or any of these wonderful communities such as Miami. I think that part of what we do as architects is we create the image of the city, and it's exciting to be in this process of now expanding that image with these amazing projects. I think that we're also looking at an inflow of talent from throughout the world, which is going to be extending and expanding the quality of the architecture that's being produced in this cycle of real estate. Specifically with the condo towers, but we also have cultural institutions that are being finished now that are also elevating the architectural culture and so on in the city. So indeed, I think architects could either make or break the image of a project or a city. So I think it's important that our developers who are believers in sort of the building of cities bring the right architectural team to their projects. As architects, as you know, we're generalists. We do sort of a big picture assemblage of the team and managing the team and making sure that all the details that make the project work come together. And I think it's important to have bold visions. But Miami already has a heritage of good design, and it's wonderful to extend that. It's kind of to be a blank canvas that keeps on going. I mean, the images we saw today of what Edgewater will become. I mean, the excitement of being able to transform a neighborhood like Edgewater is amazing. I mean, we've already seen what happened with Midtown and how Midtown has already started to become something special for our community. What's happened with Brickell, what's happening in the Central Business District. The real, game-changing projects like Brickell City Center that we see how they create synergy and all kinds of other dynamics. So indeed, for me as an architect, I mean, it's like a kid in the candy store. It's great to be here, and it's great to be part of this conversation.
So when you're designing residential some buildings where people are going to live, and we've seen the diverse backgrounds of people coming from all over the world and buying and living in many cases here in South Florida. How much do you have to think about that, or do you? Do you take into account there could be a lot of Asian families, a lot of Asian buyers, or a lot of Venezuelan buyers in a particular building, and do you try to sort of alter your design in some way to cater to those different groups?
Indeed, I think that Miami is peculiar in that sense that we have all this multiplicity of cultures that come to live here, and they enjoy the energy and the the light and the character of this community. Everybody comes with their vision. I mean, I think it's fantastic that we have Venezuela, Colombia, Brazilians, all this mix of culture coming here. And I think what we try to do is we try to incorporate all that into our thinking. I think that, especially in condo design, I think it's like product design. You know, we create that in the way we design a product. So we really need to understand who's the buyer, what are the price points, what's the neighborhood, what's the context, and really start to mold the product to its specific conditions and what's the budget of the project. But ultimately it creates value and it affects the way that you start to price the product. So I think that, you know, as architects, we sort of try to bring all these issues together to kind of mold the architecture and create a vision for the project for the development team. Developers always, you know, driving the process for us. And of course, the sales team and all the real estate talent that's in this room is part of that. You know, so I always find it to be very collaborative, and the more collaborative, the better the project becomes.
Architects and designers in general, Reinaldo, then talk to us about the difference that they can make in the success, the continued success of the real estate market here in this area.
Yes, well, I think it's fantastic to see that developers have finally decided, actually they decided that in the previous cycle to bring outside talent to mix and promote that and brand their projects, you know, with good designers throughout the world. I think it's fantastic, you know, as a local architect who's also working internationally to see, you know, that enthusiasm, the enthusiasm that the real estate market has towards bringing that talent and branding their projects with outside talent and creating projects that are unique and innovative. And I think innovation is very important in this cycle, especially with the value that are being created in these projects. So I think, you know, we'd like to be in that role, but leading the vision. And, you know, it's a great time in South Florida for that.
The trend of developers hiring, bringing in so-called starchitects to design their projects in South Florida, and the evolution of how projects are branded towards this international buyer. Our final question to you at this phase of the discussion. Talk to us about that.
Yes, well, the starchitect phenomenon, as we know, is international, and we live in a world of branding. The branding of the project with the starchitect it certainly attracts a certain percentage of the buyers because of who's designing the project. As a local architect who's involved in many of these activities, I think that it could only elevate the quality of what we're creating for the city, and just as the city continues to become more mature, architecturally speaking. I mean, we already have a tradition of architecture such as what, you know, Morris Lapid's created for us at the Fontainebleau. And those early architects that were coming from other places and creating Miami into this sort of glamorous resort town that was developed in that period. We have a great heritage of that. So, you know, this sort of influence of outsiders that come in here and are welcome to the community and they're excited to be in this format is just fantastic. And for us, it energizes us and it challenges us to produce even better work, you know, in our local product.
Reinaldo Borges, thank you so much for your insight and for the contributions to architecture in South Florida. Peter Zalewski is our final panelist we're going to talk to. And Peter, a lot of optimism in this room. And with good reason, when you take a look at some of the figures, some of the statistics, some of the forecasting that we've heard. One of the things that struck me when I first came to settle here in South Florida just recently are the number of projects that are currently under construction. And I ask you, are there too many? Is that a possibility? Is that a potential problem? Are we looking at the possibility of another bubble?
Thank you, appreciate that. For the record, I used to consult for trips in McKafka. I no longer do that, so anything I say is nothing to do with generally speaking, where we are today, you have 173 condo towers proposed in South Florida. You have 40 that are under construction. You have 3 that will be completed. 73 of which are pre-selling at some state. Barry Stern, like the head of ST Residential, who formerly would start with the guy who's doing the water resort just down the street. Everybody knows it's the Paradiso next to the road. Barry was quoted in Forbes in June saying that he desperately wants to be in Miami, although he's a bit concerned about the product that's coming forward, therefore his change is fine. So that's Barry's words, those are necessarily my words. Generally speaking, from what we can gather, what we can see in the marketplace, there seems to be a very nice equilibrium that's currently occurring. And what an equilibrium is based on, we're building for niches right now. We're building luxury, or we're building investor-grade product. Let's go around and build for the masses. So because this product is niche-oriented, luxury like Luncheon or Hara, that type of stuff, there's a certain buyer for it. It's not the mass, it's not Joe Blow who's out there making whatever he's making. He's going to try to put down some cash and try to flip it. So you have that aspect of the market. And then the other aspect of the market we have is an investor-grade product. Product that's built only to be purchased and turned around and rented out. More nationals who are buying. Perfect example would be something like the Central. Anybody's familiar with downtown Miami, 352 units, 4 parking spaces, the smallest unit is 422 square feet. From a rental perspective, it makes a ton of sense, So that's what we're at right now. And the primary reason is why we are right now where we are, is that there's only been about $1.3 billion in financing for construction. Last go around, there was $11 billion. So we're very early in the cycle, and the cycle is being driven by all cash buyers who, for the most part, we have 50% deposits. Although we are hearing about a little bit of weakening on the developer side. One thing that's starting to surface, we may or may not be aware of this, some of these domestic buyers are very concerned about getting into pre-construction because of the deposit structure, which is 50% this time around versus 20% last time around. Some of the domestic buyers who want to play the game, who are trying to get in the marketplace, they're fearful that the developer will crap out and not be able to do it. Right now, everybody's not aware of it. There's a project called Brickell House in downtown Miami. Foreclosure was just filed against it. This is the canary in the coal mine to watch it. And people start to be concerned that their money is at risk, only 10% is escrow, all the others being used in construction. If there's a concern that you're going to see risk, there might be flight, there might be a move away from it. So the concern from the domestic buyer is the developer cannot produce, and there's still skeletons and carcasses around South Florida. One of the examples of all the Sunny Mountains. One other example is right out the cemetery in downtown Miami, I think it was called the film station. So some of that stuff never actually went forward. So what some of these domestic buyers are doing, they're trying to get a bond. They're trying to get the developer to step out, provide a bond against their money, so the developer cannot produce. This person will be able to have some sort of deposit insurance. So that's really sort of the key. The domestic buyer is the key to this market right now. It's being driven by internationals, with a few exceptions. But we're still early on, and the concern about Boston, I don't think is necessarily there. The concern with the bubble is legitimate.
Prices. Let's talk about prices, because everyone in this room, their commission depends on the eventual sales price of the property. So let's talk about appreciation and prices. I heard from someone earlier that we're still looking at 2004 level prices. What's your forecast? What's your take on prices and where they're going?
Well, we do surveys with the pre-sale offices that are currently underway. Like I said, 73 towers on 173 are currently pre-sale. So you have another 100 that have not even come to market yet. Based on a study we did at the end of July, what we found was that the mean price for pre-construction was $724 a square foot. The low was $251 a foot up in Gietl Beach. The high was about $2,600 or so. And it changes up at the addition. So we're really all across the board. That sort of factors into what I was saying about niche-oriented, investor-friendly, and more sort of unique and very special type of product. What we can gather is as those prices go up, there's going to be a lot of pressure on anybody who's looking for any kind of return. So if you're a buyer, you're coming here, you're trying to buy something, you're going to rent it out, you're going to take advantage of what you think is a great rental market for the time being. Therefore, the more you pay, obviously, it's going to have an effect on your return. So as prices go up, you might be making more of a commission, but I would make it, it's going to be a harder sell, especially for anybody who's savvy, anybody who is money-oriented, can run the numbers. You're going to have a hard time coming with 50%. And on top of that, paying the price that's going to throw off maybe 1 to 2% return.
Interesting. Talk to us about the return that new investors are looking for, or is it appreciation that they're basing their purchases on?
Well, you know, there's, I will tell you this market pre-construction-wise, and let me tell you what's left in the last boom, just to sort of give context. During the last boom, the 7 largest markets east of I-95, this would be downtown Miami, South Beach, Sunny Isles, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, and West Palm. There are about 49,000 units created, 245 towers. Of that, there's roughly 1,925 units left. Of the 1,925 units left, the highest concentration of unsold condos in all 7 markets, South Beach. South Beach has 585 unsold units. These are developer-oriented units that were built since 03 and still not yet sold. And the reason they haven't sold is that developers are refusing to flinch on price. As they refuse to flinch on price, they're holding back and they're standing firm to the point where the Fort Lauderdale, the W South Beach, you're not aware of it, just got hit with a foreclosure suit. because they haven't moved it. They have 408 units in that project. They've only moved, memory serves me correct, 207. Now they're getting tremendous returns, about $1,832 a square foot, if memory serves me correct. But what's happening is they're standing firm, they're trying to hold back, but ultimately the clock and the time is their biggest startup that's sort of out there. So what's sort of going on in pricing? Generally speaking, we have some very optimistic sellers who think that they're going to be able to achieve a price, and ultimately, is a buyer going to play the game? And from what we're seeing, the domestic buyer, except for certain markets, is playing. But as you go into Broward and Long Beach County, you're going to find that it's a very tremendously different market.
You talked about foreign investors coming in, purchasing upscale, higher-priced product for the sole intention of then renting it out. Talk to us about that trend and how you see it evolving.
Well, right now, the market's being driven by investors who want to rent out their product. And to give you a perspective, let me give it to you in South Beach numbers, and I'll give you downtown Miami numbers, because it's a little bit more startling. What the flag is, back in 2009, if you were to try to rent a place in South Beach, okay, this would go from effectively the one hotel and resort area, so you went from this 24th Street all the way down to South Point. You go from Belle Isle all the way to the Atlantic. The median rental price, transacted rental price in 2009 was $1.79 a square foot per month, $1.79 a square foot per month. If you compare that to downtown Miami at the time was $1.48. So they were somewhat similar. It was what it was. Fast forward to today, in third quarter of 2013, it's $2.37 a square foot. The ask is $3.23 a square foot. So what we're finding is as these rents jack up, and they're jacking up tremendously, many people who are living in inferior type of product, which is in the Art Deco district, not along the rim of the island, the barrier island, but in the interior part, many people are starting to leap over, and they're starting to head to downtown Miami. To the point where and why? Well, because if you live in the interior of South Beach, you're living in a place potentially that has jealousy windows, you have a wall unit, you got roaches calling through in the morning, you're parking on the street, somebody's getting drunk, they're popping the window, they're stealing your change, you want to throw something out, you have to go out to the help. So that's one scenario that you split 37 square foot per month. Or if you go to downtown Miami, you've got a brand new property. You have yourself a spa, you have yourself heated parking, you have a swimming pool, you have a gym, you have a review, you have a helping, that type of stuff. So this has been, South Beach's pricing has been a tremendous sort of booster for greater downtown Miami. And people are sort of jumping over the closet with the 4 mile line and going to downtown Miami, and they're renting there. But they're renting there to such a point that the foreign buyer and the investor thinks that these prices are going to continue to go up. We're now starting to see as we go forward, and we look at quarterly rental basis, we're starting to see a slow in the activity, the rental activity in downtown Miami as well as in South Beach. And the reason we're seeing it is because prices are trying to get to the point where they're getting extremely challenging. So what this is doing is this is forcing people to sort of go elsewhere to try to look to rent. And as you run the numbers, and if you go off a median basis, you're going to find that places like Aventura, which may seem way too far-fetched, they're selling the rental price in Aventura versus South Beach versus greater downtown Miami. It starts to come to the point where it could make sense if you get all over Florida, and if you get this great ability to be able to sort of move along. I would say it's going to make sense for everybody, but ultimately people are price sensitive. They're going to buy and they're going to rent wherever it sort of makes sense. And right now, the role we're on with the pre-construction, you got to be sort of scratching your head.
Tell us what you really think, Peter. We're going to open this up. We've heard about the cycle and everybody wanting to capitalize on the current cycle. Talk to us about the dynamics of this cycle. Peter, real fast, one more for you. The dynamics of this cycle compared to the last one.
The dynamics of this circle right now is that it's being driven by all cash, 50% deposit. Last time you put 20% down, typically you took out an equity loan or something, you threw the cash down, you waited 3 years, and you tried to flip the contract within that 3-year period, you put $100 grand in your pocket. This time around, you have to make a commitment of 50% down. So people who are willing to step forward, primarily the foreign national forces, sort of playing this game. The domestic buyer, as I said, is not accustomed to play. What we are seeing is financing starting to move in the market. Like I said, about $1.3 billion of financing pre-construction has been put in place in South Florida thus far. Okay, compared to $11 billion last time. But what happens is as this money goes in, the last deal to just get done, the construction financing was the Borges Tower in South Beach, $214 million for 132 units. So the money's moving into the marketplace, and it came in from Wells Fargo, which is extremely conservative on their financing, from what I've heard and what I see. So where I'm going with this is if you're 50% today, you have 73 towers pre-selling, you have 40 under construction. The lenders increasingly are going to have to put their money on the street. It's going to have to make sense. They're going to put their money on the street. And as they put it on the street, there's going to be pressure to compete on deposits. So watch for the deposit requirements start to get eroded as we get into 14 and as we start to get into 15. So, you know, if I have any suggestions to what I'm telling our people, be fearful of rental erosion in 2015. If you're playing the game, you want to get in sooner rather than later. And that would just sort of point to McKafka Group. They're doing 19 towers right now. They're representing roughly about 25% of everything that's going forward. And why are they rushing? They learned last time. You want to be first at the table. You want to put your chips up. You want to take them off because ultimately the market will crap off because it's our history.
Peter Zalewski, thank you so much, Peter. I want to open it up now to the audience. Quick questions. If you do have a question, raise your hand. We have members of the chamber staff who have microphones. They'll walk over to you. If you have a question for our panel, just raise your hand and a member of the chamber staff will come over to you. So much knowledge and expertise from this panel. A question over here. Yes, ma'am. Hold on one quick second. I'm not sure we can hear you. Why don't you start off by telling us your name?
Good afternoon. My name is Zalewski. I'm Private Equity Fund. I have a question about for Mr. Cruz, the economist. With the escalation of the prices in Miami going up so quickly, it's pricing out the citizens, U.S. citizens and local residents out of the marketplace. Where do you see this bubble going?
You know, we tend to look at long-term trends. We're really looking at long-term trends in pricing for housing. And one of the things that is very clear, if you look historically, that we were, pretty close to the trend until about 2006 or 2004. Then all of a sudden, you can see the chart go way off from the trend. During the recession, we saw that those prices coming back down to their sort of long-run trend. So we can say, okay, this was sort of like the normal prices that we would expect. But now we're seeing at all tier levels, all price tier levels, the movement is going again in the wrong, well, not in the wrong direction, in a direction away from the long-term trend. So that's an indication to us that potentially we're seeing maybe prices rising too high, and then also in the rental market, at least rents have been going up very high. And there are a lot of things that are not affordable now. What has happened in the past when that situation occurs? Well, one of the things that we saw is that the average household size increased in Dade County. That is, that people were either staying with their parents, doubling up with others, and the housing size was, or even parents moving back in with their children. So even though the population was growing, the demand for new units was basically not growing as fast as population. So I think I agree with what was said here, that we need to start monitoring prices, both not only home ownership prices, but also rental prices. Because I think things are, we really should start being vigilant about that.
Thank you very much for the question and the answer. We have time for 2 more questions. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Larry Coleman, and I have a question for Reinaldo regarding architecture. Is there any incentive for preserving the architecture of your property? It's easier from a building perspective to tear them down. But if you renovate one, is there any incentive, any tax incentives to the owners who go through that agony?
Thank you, Larry. And as you know, in South Beach specifically, we've been having this conversation now, which affects all these high-end residential neighborhoods that we're very busy, doing modern homes and complete new construction. But we're also very interested in protecting the stock of buildings and homes that are worth keeping. And we have some commissioners in the room, and there's been a lot of debate about this, and it's part of the ongoing debate between the mayoral candidates and some of the city commission candidates. Unfortunately, I've told the commission, I think it's a bad time to have the conversation during the political season because it's really something that has a long-term effect in this industry. And right now, I've felt a little bit of paralysis in the market based on some of these ordinances that are now considered to be zoning in progress, and it's affecting some of these strategies that some of the buyers and some of you are representing some buyers are having a hard time determining now whether we go forward with a deal or not based on a historic preservation question. Unfortunately, we're in a city that is very low, close to sea level. So the issue of preserving an older structure in this community is a little bit different than preserving an older structure in Coral Gables and in other historic neighborhoods that we have in the community. Personally, many times, especially based on land value, location, and the value of the existing building, the existing home that you would want to preserve, the city is trying to incentivize you. I personally don't think that it's adequate incentive, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Just from a real estate transaction point of view, bringing value to the property, maximizing the opportunity of the location. We have limited inventory of waterfront sites. Some of these homes are in those waterfront sites. Some of them may not be worth preserving because they have problems with fluoride in their concrete. It just becomes a complex issue. So Larry, you attend our conference every Tuesday at the city, and we'd love to talk more about that.
Thank you very much. We have time for one more. Yes, sir. You in the back.
Thank you very much. My name is Dan Davidson. I've got a question. We've obviously all done a pretty remarkable job in terms of telegraphing the right message to foreign investors because so much money is coming in. Is there any one misperception amongst foreign buyers that, if corrected, would lead to even more investment in Miami? In other words, is there some misperception about what we really are that once again is we correct relative to the president's of the world?
Lynda or Peter, either one of you want to take that? Misperceptions.
Well, listen, I agree with Dr. Cruz. I think immigration is the key part. If and when, and people are trying to push the DB5 visa program. We're potentially going to invest $500,000 into a program that's been approved by the federal government. Somehow, therefore, fast-tracking where they get a visa. I think there might be some misperception with the realtors in this room as to how and if you can get paid on that type of product. But that's more so on the industry side. It doesn't necessarily have to do anything with the individual. But immigration, I think, is going to be the biggest issue. I think there's this concern, especially because some of them talk about the Obama administration cracking down on immigrants, their status there, things like that. But other than immigration, I think there's a very positive general feeling about, especially about South Florida because of the diversity.
Let's hear once again for our panelists, Lynda and Robert, Reinaldo, and Peter. Thank you all so much for sharing your insight and your expertise on what you're doing for that.
Good afternoon again. How many of you know Maureen Levy? How many of you as brokers had the opportunity to go into the Miami headquarters, see her shining face, get educated, get pushed, and help us to become the best that we can be in our industry? It is, right? I mean, she's just been an incredible legacy that we can all look up to and serve as the highest possible caliber of business professional. It is our honor from both the Miami Beach Chamber and the Board of Realtors to give Maureen this excellent, let me read it, the recognition of the Industry Leader Award for her hard work and dedication to us as brokers and to a career that was just superb.
Thank you, everybody. I retired on March 1st of 2013, but I've missed everybody, and this is my first time I'm at a big luncheon with fellow professionals, and it's so great to be here. Thank you so much.
I'd just like to say a quick word on behalf of the Miami Association of Realtors. Maureen is literally the person that helped charge our profession and seeing the change in face of Miami real estate. So if you want to see someone who's helped us in our profession, Maureen Levine is it.
Closing remarks. Before I end the stage, thank you all once again for having me. Rick Bulb, you can watch me 5 o'clock and 11 p.m. all the CBS board here in Miami. I look forward to meeting and working with all of you over the years to come.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much. What a great lunch we had here today. I really want to give a big shout out to Rick Volbaum. Thank you so much, Rick. Everybody, let's hear it for Rick. Come on, guys. I also want to say thank you to Madeline Romanello. Where are you, Madeline? You've done a great job with this entire real estate council. It's just been on fire for the last few years. It's going to be a whole new world without you running that show there, so thank you. I also want to say thank you to the Chamber staff for running a great event here. And also thank you to the Ritz Carlton. You guys did a great job. It was a difficult step up from the W. And for all you brokers out there, you guys are not going to want to miss this after party. Our host, Stephan Fernando, are going to tell you about the presentation that Cruz and Hara.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. It was a wonderful presentation. In order to cap this, for those of you in the room that would like to learn more about the amazing opportunity that Crimson presents, we're doing a private VIP presentation of our Miami 2020 Edgewater presentation, which, by the way, ISG 2 years ago created the original Miami 2020 presentation that many realtors in this room have used to sell the downtown and Miami area. Today we're moving it up to Edgewater. Come upstairs, join us. You'll see on your table the personal invitation from all of us to you to come upstairs after the event and join us to learn more about Crimson and have an opportunity to see our Miami Edgewater presentation. So please join us. Thank you for being here.